of money which the federal government is religiously allocating to NDDC. We would like to see the results on the ground.
President Buhari orders forensic audit of Niger Delta Development Commission.
Ministries, departments, and agencies continue budget defense at National Assembly.
Basically, all the other projects are all being allocated funds here as a proposal.
Federal government to increase support to farmers to achieve food sufficiency.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on the menace of baby factories in Nigeria.
To get pregnant and make them deliver because they want to sell the babies to people and people that need children.
That there is no money, the country is everywhere is dry, should not guarantee any woman or any such to go into that.
In Nigeria, trafficking in persons is usually targeted at adults and children, particularly women and girls.
That's true, Blessing, but there has been growing concern of the emergence and growth of a sophisticated and syndicated group involved in what is commonly referred to as baby factories.
You're right, Kingsley. Now, human trafficking linked to baby factories is regarded as the third most heinous crime in Nigeria, aside drug trafficking and financial fraud, respectively.
Now, most of the busted baby factories in the country were found in the southern part with high incidence in states such as Ondo, Imo, Akwa Ibom, Abia, and Anambra. Now, some of the ladies who were involved in the baby factories had said they were forced against their wish, and while others have done so for monetary gratification, and still others engage in it because they are the mercy of the operators of the baby factories.
You're right, Kingsley. Now, the sad aspect about those who operate these baby factories is that they get kidnapped, as girls, and they hold them hostage, and are subsequently raped, impregnated, and detained against their wish, as you already indicated. They are delivered of such babies.
Now, various actors are said to be involved in the baby factory business, including men whose sole responsibility is to impregnate the women, mostly teenage girls, or to kickstart another pregnancy after such women have been delivered of their babies.
Well, the most recent baby factory arrest made by the police was in a property in Lagos State last month, as in September, with a total of 19 pregnant women rescued and freed. Now, what are the reasons for the growing number of baby factories, or baby harvesting as some will call them? Why do they exist? Who operates them? And what has happened to the rights of the child and our moral values? Well, these questions, as well as several others, I hope our guests will prefer answers to on today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. My name is Blessing Abu. Thank you for joining us today's edition.
And I'm Kingsley Osodolo. I join my colleague Blessing to also welcome you to the program. We're live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're right at the Abuja headquarters studios. And as always, there will be the complimentary segments of the program, and these include newspaper review, business, and others. For now, let's join Musbah Don Wahab for the news. Good morning, Musbah.
So very good morning, Kingsley. Welcome to the news on Good Morning Nigeria. The consequential adjustment of salaries of workers arising from the new Minimum Wage Act of 2019, which has lingered for a while, has finally been resolved. Austin Ayibe reports that the organized labor and the federal government concluded negotiations on Friday morning after several hours of deliberations.
After 3 consecutive days of negotiation between the federal government and organized labor on the consequential adjustment of salaries arising from the new Minimum Wage Act of 2019, both parties have arrived at a compromise.
Agreed, having reviewed the increase in the lowest paid person in this wage structure at 30,000 naira for the grade level 1, step 1, that the grade level 07 officers should move up by 23.2% in the wage structure, in their wages. Grade level 08, 20%. Grade level 09, that's grade level 9, 19% increase. Grade level 10 to 14, 16% increase. Grade level 15 to 17, 14% increase.
The minister also explained that the adjustment was made for federal government workers on other salary structures.
The people in this compartment are people on the consolidated health system scale, consolidated research institute scheme, CONRISE, and the one for the teachers, CONTES 2, and those for CONWAS 2, CONMES, CONTEDIS, and COMCAS. For officers on this wage structure, grade level 7 or its equivalent had an increase of 23.2%. Grade level 8 to 14 and its equivalent had 16% increase. And grade level 15 to 17 or its equivalent had a 10.5% increase.
He said similar adjustments were made for personnel of the military and paramilitary, which shall be communicated to them since they were not represented in the negotiating committee. Head of Service and the President of the Nigeria Labour Congress say the percentages arrived at by the negotiating committee is a win-win for both parties.
Because both sides sat down together and worked out this agreement together. It was a collective decision.
Clearly speaking, I think it was a collective process, and therefore what remains is actually to implement and workers to also benefit from it.
With the payment template being worked out, implementation of the adjustment is expected to start soon. In Abuja, Austin Anyebe, NT News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the release of 10 billion naira special intervention fund for immediate repairs and upgrade of the Akano Ibiam International Airport, Enugu. This was the high point of an engagement between the president and a high-powered delegation from the South East Zone, Okodone.
It's our responsibility to rehabilitate the infrastructure. We will keep on doing it. I believe you will have the courage to continue to explain to your constituencies whenever they feel that there is some laxity in government effort.
We again plead to you, our dear President, to kindly declare state of emergency on our interstate routes and issue a kind directive to this effect.
I personally firmly believe if we get the infrastructure correct, the roads, the rail, wow, most Nigerians would mind their own businesses. They wouldn't even care who is in government.
And separately, President Muhammadu Buhari has ordered a forensic audit of the operations of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, from 2001 to 2019. Receiving governors of a state being served by the commission, the president described as worrisome and intolerable the persistent public outcry over the activities of NDDC.
It's a systemic issue. It's a systemic crisis that we are here to highlight. So there's a a disconnect, a major disconnect. And we feel concerned as key benefiting stakeholders.
The amount of money which the federal government is religiously allocating to NDDC, we would like to see the results on the ground. The project must be verifiable. I mean, you just can't say you spend so many billions and then when you go, it's only the lagoon you see, and so you don't see the structures that are claimed to have been done. Those that are responsible for that, I think, will eventually be asked to explain certain issues.
The federal government says it will spare no effort at ensuring the development of Calabar so that the historic city can be opened up to the rest of Nigeria for the betterment of the people. This while granting audience to the Opong of Calabar, Edem Ekpo, Okon Abbasi, Okodone. The Federal Capital Territory Administration aims to spend 5 billion naira on the rehabilitation of federal government buildings, where 3 billion naira has been earmarked for the construction of Abuja Rail Mass Transit Projects Lot 1 and 3 in 2020. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mohammed Bello, was speaking at the 2020 budget defense before the Senate Committee on FCT.
Basically, all the other projects are all being allocated funds here as a proposal, basically to achieve three main objectives. The main objective is that we look at capital projects that require just incremental investment to complete them. Secondly, we are also looking at capital projects that will have the greatest impact on the city in terms of vehicular movement, in terms of commercial activity.
As a committee, have resolved to better the lot of all residents of the FCT by ensuring the full implementation of this budget.
Reports from the National Assembly as well also says removal of oil subsidy of hike in the pump price of petroleum products are not options on the table of governments. Minister of State Petroleum Resources Timi Preosiba made this clear during the ministry's budget defense at the joint session of both Senate and House of Representatives committees on petroleum resources upstream and downstream.
Nigerians are consuming over 60 million liters a day. There's a lot of smuggling. And because the petroleum product is cheaper in Nigeria, a lot of our neighbors are taking advantage of the cheaper prices in Nigeria.
We have demonstrated our readiness and our commitment towards supporting Mr. President achieve his greater vision for Nigeria.
And away from the National Assembly, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has expressed the federal government's determination at doubling the support to Nigerian farmers for the country to achieve food security sufficiency. The Vice President stated this at a visit to Nigerian Farmers Group and Cooperative Society in Kokona, Nasarawa State.
How do we use what we have to drive our population and create jobs? 300 people employed here, more than 500 in terms of harvest, with about 5 trillion load of rice living here every month. The question is not if we can grow. The question is, what is the size we want to grow?
What we are seeing is the revolution that we've been talking about, the real revolution. The revolution of ideas, the revolution of technology, the revolution of young Nigerians who are determined to ensure that in this country they produce enough, they employ hundreds of thousands and very soon millions. This is the story of other great nations.
President Muhammadu Buhari has sympathized with victims of the Onitsha tanker explosion, expressing sadness over the death of a mother and her child in the incidents. President Buhari called for urgent action by the Ministry of Transport and the FRSC to stem the frequent fatal disasters on public roads. Another fire outbreak started this morning at Omaba Phase 2 Onitsha. The cause of the inferno is yet to be ascertained. Our correspondent reports that the residents were seen running helter-skelter. The fire is set to be running through the gutter like the flow of petroleum products. The inferno started in front of Bose filling station and has extended towards Anam and Nkologo Strait or Mogba, Phase 2, Onitsha. Personnel of the Anambra State Fire Service were on ground to address the situation. That's a bit of the news this morning. Join us subsequently for more in our China bulletins. And Blessing and Kinsley will be back after this break. I'm Musbah Wahab. Good morning.
The new edition of TV Guide is out, exclusively taking a look at the traditional television and new media. Are they comparable or complementary? Media industry players give perspective on the trends, progress, challenges, and the way forward. Find out on this compelling edition of TV Guide. Explanatory interview with stars of the team within R8, Keith General of NTA, T.L. More of KIT, Nifemi Oguntai of TVC, and a host of others. TV Guide, your indispensable companion. Also feature Iya Modina. A TV drama series on NTA. Let's get to meet the characters behind Iya Modina. This edition also presents exciting features on tourism, culture, entertainment, sports, health, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendors near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Not so fast. Look, I'm tired. I want to take care of this country for greener pastures.
Just calm down for a moment, please.
Do you have a job where you're going to? No, but someone is arranging,
Listen, Lincoln. Checking out of this country without proper planning is one thing. Unimaginable thing. You know, I've been in the diaspora, but legitimately doing great things at home and abroad. As I've been saying, without the proper footing abroad, the risk is not worth it. Listen, Lincoln, it's better to be home than be trapped abroad, or even end up in prison.
Sharp guy, Igboro na wise guy. Igboro they code everybody, Igboro they feel funky. Igboro na smart guy, anywhere they go he shine eye. Igboro no they slack, Igboro is very connected. Igboro they judge everybody, and they know they trust anybody. Igboro they look everybody like say them be suspect. Nobody wanna trust nobody, but everybody.
Don't be like him. Free your mind with Airtel Smart Talk and enjoy calls to all networks at a flat rate of 11 kobo per second. 7 naira fee on the first call of the day applies. Dial *315# to join.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
An award that has succeeded to pool a galaxy of stars from the north, south, east to the west, and central Africa, and also those that are domiciled beyond the shores of Africa under one roof.
Is 40. Come, let's celebrate
40 years of impressive TV broadcasting at the grassroots. On Thursday, 17th October 2019, there will be a lecture titled Lens and Sound Television, a tool for social reorientation and good governance. Guest lecturer, Professor Oluyemisi Oluremi Obiladi, Professor of Education and Women's Studies, Obafemi Awolowo University. Special guest of honor, His Excellency Prince Dapo Abiodun, Governor of Ogun State. Royal Father of the Day, His Royal Majesty Oba Adedotun Aremu Gbadebo, the Alake and Pramontrola of Egbaland. Chairman of the occasion, Chief Olatunde Anyela Abudu, Mayegun of Egbaland. Chief host, Malam Yakubu Ibn Mohammed, Director General, NTA. Other activities lined up for the occasion include an array of awards to distinguished entities held to walk on Saturday, 12th October 2019, while a novelty match comes up on Tuesday, 15th October 2019. MKO Abiola Stadium. Come, celebrate 40 years of impressive television at the grassroots with us. Take NTA Abeokuta to the next level.
If you just tuned in, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the NTA. Time now to take a look at what the business story for the day is. National Council on Privatization approves preferred bidder for Afam Electricity Generation Company. Well, Kunle Adeye has details for this as well as other business stories.
The approval was one of the major decisions taken at the second meeting of the NCP for 2019, chaired by Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo, which favored Transcorp Power Consortium as the preferred bidder with 105.3 billion naira, while Diamond Stripes Consortium is the reserve bidder with a price of 102.3 billion naira. The bidding by Kirst Electricity for the reprivatized Yola Electricity Distribution Company with a price of 19 million was also approved. Successful bidders will be responsible for operating the generation and distribution companies to improve the generation and distribution networks and customer service in line with the objectives of the federal government set out in the National Electricity Policy. And the equity market on Thursday closed on a negative note as Nigeria Stock Exchange All-Share Index depreciated by minus 0.06% to close at 26,456.29 points, as against minus 0.16% depreciation recorded previously. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeye.
Many thanks, Kunle, for the business package. Next for us, newspaper review.
Our newspaper reviewer, Bayoto Obi, is already seated. Welcome you to today's edition.
Good morning, Blessing.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have only the Daily Sun newspaper. Earpiece beside the nameplate. Igbo governors and leaders get deal on Enugu airport repair. With a rider, Buhari approves 10 billion naira for rehabilitation. That's on 8. Lead story says with the kicker, new minimum wage controversy. No more wars as federal government and labor strike deal. Workers anxious to receive new pay. There's a sidebar there indicating the agreed adjustments from levels 7 up until level 17. And then you have Buhari orders forensic audit of NDDC. Onitsha fire disaster, death toll rises. Kalu Okowa, Ekweremadu Okonkwo condole with victims' families and governments. Why we raise VAT, this according to the finance minister. And the federal government reiterated commitment to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. And the photograph on the front page there shows the Minister of Transportation, Chibuka Amechi, surrounded by officials of the China Civil Engineering Construction Corporation inside an ultra-modern train when it took delivery of additional train coaches for the Abuja, Kaduna, and Lagos-Ibadan rail lines. And this was in Guangzhou, China. Lion.
Well, members of the negotiation team comprising the government side and Labour have reached agreement. This time, the agreement is staggered, and they reached it early hours of this morning. And in fact, Labour has commended the acting head of service of the Federation, Dr. Folashade, yes, for what they describe as her sincerity. The staggered agreement shows that for those on level 7, the agreement is 23.2%. Those on level 8 is 20% increase. Level 9 will get 19%. Level 10 to 14 will get 16%, while level 14 will get 15 to 17. Level 15 to 17 will get 14%. Meanwhile, Labour has stressed that yes, government may not be able to afford 66%. They understand. And they also agree that, yes, there's a need for Labour to tighten their belt. However, they stress that some Nigerians cannot be more Nigerian than others. And therefore, Labour is saying that while workers are tightening their belt, governments, particularly governors, and also should also belt up seriously to accommodate the challenges in the economy. This agreement is coming 182 days after the president signed the bill. The agreement was reached in the early hours of today. The other interesting stories that have come are the fact that a sum of 10 billion has been approved as intervention fund to upgrade the Akano BM Airport in Enugu. President, while receiving the delegation of leaders from the Southeast, led by the chairperson of the Southeast Governor Forum, accorded Mr. President a standing ovation when he announced this to them. They also drew attention about the poor condition of federal rules, and they demanded a state of emergency. The president drew attention that the state of decay is general across the nation, and government is doing what it can within little resources to take care of the route. Meanwhile, also receiving a delegation from Cross River State, the president said Calabar Port will be dredged, and as soon as legal issues are clarified. The delegation led by the Obon Calabar also talked about the need for roads, and the president indicated that there are 3 federal roads currently undergoing or being constructed with the intention of linking Calabar to parts of the country. Meanwhile, there was also a meeting with governors of the Niger Delta Development States, and at that meeting, the president directed that a forensic audit of the operations of the Niger Delta Development Corporation since 2001 to 2019. The president says, with the amount of resources religiously allocated to the NDDC, we like to see the result on ground. Those responsible have to explain certain issues. The delegation led by the governor, Siraki Dixon of Bayelsa State, expressed concern about their disappointment with the NDDC's activities. Meanwhile, the Senate also is to probe 2.5 billion NNDC water hyacinth project. The concern of the city is that the project initially was to cost 2.5 billion, but it had allegedly been jacked up to 65 billion naira. It was for desilting and clearing water hyacinth. So there's some initiatives there, forensic audit, and people are being held accountable for public resources that have been placed at their disposal.
All right, Bayo.
Okay, well, that's what the new minimum wage. Congratulations to the negotiators.
Your question still has not been answered.
It hasn't. I posed the question yesterday. The federal government negotiated with Labour. States and local governments, are they also bound by this adjustment? That's one. And then what has also not been clarified, where I tried to read the report, the percentage adjustment, is it on a total package or on basic?
More questions from Kingsley to the negotiators.
Well, if I may just infer, yes, the increase by 66% from 18,000 to 30,000, was it on basic or wholesome?
So you, by the time you spend the entire federal budget on paying recurrent expenditure, I'm sure we'll all be crying about infrastructure.
Yes.
And the consequences.
Yeah, you're right. Currently, recurrent expenditure is taking 76% of the budget.
That's right.
Leaving paltry 24% for capital project.
So
already, the Minister of Finance was at IMF World Bank ceremony in New York. We're already looking for a loan of about $3 billion to reinforce our power infrastructure.
So these are the issues. Perhaps the easier part now is been the negotiation. The tougher part will be
the payment.
The payment, and then to face the consequences. Once the payment takes up. I think it's pretty important. What we're just saying now, this latter part is not minimum wage. This one is an Udoji award that they have received. This second leg of it.
In 2019. All right, there were other stories about fire incidents. There was one Wednesday. Now, midnight today again, there was another story about fire. It seemed as if we're always not prepared for these disasters.
Fire is disappointing. Usually, fire incidences usually happen during the dry season, our Harmattan period. That is when the atmosphere is dry, but this time around, we are still in the dying days of the rainy season, and we are still having fire incidences. Unfortunately, some of them are triggered by tankers tipping off. So, if pressure is put on road users, tanker owners, and how they manage their movement across the country, I think we'll be able to reduce that kind of incidents. And like we pointed out yesterday, people must be held accountable for some of this carelessness that is coming, because a lot of lives and property are lost.
All right. Okay, the editorial is, okay, let me, some of what's captured here. So it's indeed a political or constitutional sea change from the parliament in Italy, as they are downsizing the size of parliament. Financial encumbrances have compelled Italy to downsize its parliament, and this, of course, will not be taking will be taking effect from 2020, right after the next election, after the referendum.
Well, this is a concern that we are aware of, particularly with the advent of the Ninth Senate. It will recall that Senator Rochas Anayo Okorocha raised the issue on the floor of the Senate. But this editorial now is happening about the development across the world. And it has cited instances, particularly it cited the instance in Senegal where they completely eradicated the Senate. They also cited the development in Mauritania. And therefore, they are talking about Nigeria also looking inwards about the Senate. Italy did the same thing, and they have saved about 815 pounds sterling.
Yes.
Million.
That's 1 billion euros now.
Yes. So, if we are to go by the proposal by Senator Okorocha, it says that we should have one senator per state. That will give us 36 senators plus one maybe for the FCT, making 37. And then he said when it comes to the House of Reps, we have 3 per state, and that will give us, again, 3 times 36 plus maybe 1 for the Federal Capital Territory. And so instead of having about 400 and something members of the National Assembly, this will reduce the whole target to about 146 or thereabouts. And it will go consequentially to reduce cost. And particularly, the editorial is happening on the revelation made by Senator Shehu Sani that senators are paid 13.5 million every month as part of constituency allowance. This economy cannot afford that.
Well, okay. Well, thanks. Yesterday, incidentally, Professor Sareme Osumbo, two-time senator, was one of our guests when we were discussing the legislative agenda for the 9th Assembly. And one of the issues he referenced had to do with the clout in some quarters for the reduction in the number of lawmakers. And they made very valid propositions that, look, if you say one senator per state, it means that the majority group in that state will almost invariably be the one that will produce the senator for the state, which would then lead to further cries of marginalization and exclusion. Those cries we have heard less in the Fourth Republic has grown. They say, look, we're not represented, XYZ. That is for the Senate. Well, the argument might very well be, instead of 3 senators, we don't have 2. Or the federal constituencies, instead of having 360, couldn't we then reduce the number? But don't forget, one of the issues that we have also had to deal with lately is the revelation that, through research studies, that the National Assembly itself is under-resourced financially and also in terms of manpower. That they could do with a lot more resources to enable them carry on their functions. I mean, the budget for the National Assembly is about 125 billion. Yes. I assume it's even 150 billion. Take that out and then take it to recurrent expenditure for the executive and judicial branches. What is left? Absolutely. Bayo. Hope you enjoy your weekend.
All right, sir. That's it with the newspaper review. Of course, the editor came from the Punch newspaper. That's page 20, if you need to take a look at that. Time now to take a break. When we return, to be time to take a look at a conversation on baby factories.
Nigeria Diaspora Investment Summit 2019 holds on the 6th to the 8th of November 2019. The summit will take place at the Banquet Hall Presidential Villa, Abuja, Nigeria. Theme: leveraging diaspora resources for economic growth. Sectors: agribusiness, education, training, healthcare, entertainment, sports, hospitality and tourism, infrastructure and real estate, manufacturing, extractive industries, telecommunications, technology and innovation, waste management and environmental remediation, transportation. For registration, visit www.ndis.gov.ng. For participation and sponsorship, please call 090-177-77008, 0817-2244-660. Convened by the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission.
What we are really cultivating here is a better future for all Nigerian women, and it's not always easy. Panadol Extra relieves headache, backache, joint pain, toothache, and menstrual pain. The pain is worth it.
They are there at the crack of dawn. They are there busy preparing while we rise for our day. They are there silently, guarding, waiting, listening, and watching. They are there ready in the sky above, in the waters below, in the blistering heat of the day, in the dead of night, willing, indefatigable, determined in the defense of the sovereignty of our country. They are our first line of defense and our last. They who have paid the ultimate price in defending us. They are fathers and uncles. They are mothers and sisters and girlfriends and boyfriends. They are brothers and cousins and best friends and neighbors. They are classmates, colleagues, and citizens of this nation. They are our defenders and deserve our respect, our prayers, our thoughts. Nigeria, please support our armed forces.
Thank you. Thank you. Please, did you hear that?
Of course I did. That is village headmaster too.
Eh? So, Auntie Amebo was not gossiping then?
Village headmaster is celebrating 50 years.
50? Already?
Wait, you mean people have been watching village headmaster since 1968? How time flies. I have retired, but not tired.
And 50 years now. So because of that, we won't get big party.
New date, now 28th to 29th October 2019.
Me, I'm a body invite you now. And my belly just is sweet. Because I don't say all those people they drink my party. They will come drink the Toboy. And me, radio Jamebo, the call now. Make una not forget it.
Hello, my name is Dr. Panam Prosipol.
Hi there, my name is Reverend John Ogu.
I want to personally invite you to the Middle Belt Praise Festival. Yes, the first Middle Belt Praise Festival.
God wants us to come together as one and begin to love on one another so that He can flow through us to be a blessing, not just to us, but to the rest of Nigeria and perhaps the world.
For the first time in over 100 years, the Middle Belters are coming together as one.
We have people coming from every corner of the Middle Belt.
Great music, great praise, and powerful worship.
All right, people of God. Yeah. Come, let's praise the Lord.
All this is taking place from the 18th, 19th, and 20th of October 2019
at the Ecumenical Center right here in Abuja. Look forward to seeing you there.
You are welcome.
All right, welcome back. But if you just tuned in, it's Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of Nigerian Television Authority. We are having our conversation segment, the menace of baby factories in the country. But before we kick off, let's take this Vox Pop together by our correspondent, Abdul Salam Jibril.
What I know about Baby Factory is a factory that produces children, whereby they force teenagers and to get pregnant and make them deliver because they want to sell the babies to people and people that need children that can't have their own biological children. And I feel it's illegal. It's wrong.
Recent times I've been hearing on the news about people having a home where ladies go there and they take in and give birth to babies without necessarily knowing the father. And eventually those babies are sold out.
It's not allowed in any form, no matter what, that there is no money, the country is everywhere is dried, should not guarantee any woman of any such to go into that. It's like equivalent to prostitution. So it shouldn't be allowed. People are not proud to say, I am into that business. And that tells our conscience individually that it is a wrong way of generating income for oneself.
An investigation should be carried out so that if the people are running these places are kidnapping women and making them have babies, then they should be criminally charged.
If I can even see the president beg them to really do something about it. This is our future we are talking about. Babies, children. We don't know what a child's future may be. We have people that can be scientists, but because they don't have the right, the right upbringing, they can't become what they are supposed to be. So I would really, beg the government to really do something, look into it. They should really do something about it, sincerely speaking.
Yes, with that, we are set to take on let's now look into those issues as raised in the Vox Pop there. I'd like to welcome to the program Deputy Commissioner of Police, Frank Mba, also the first Public Relations Officer. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, and good morning, Nigeria.
Also joining us in the studio, we would like to welcome Godwin Walker, is Director of Research and Program Development with NAPTIP, as the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, Kingsley, we have other guests across
Now, joining us from our Jos Network studios is Abdul Rafiu Adeniji. He is the President, National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives. Mr. Adeniji, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning, Nigeria.
Good morning, Nigerians.
Okay, and then also joining us via Skype from Owerri, which is the capital of Imo State, is Adaora Onyechere, Senior Special Assistant on Information and Advocacy to the Governor of Imo. Ms. Onyechere, pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
All right, so let's begin from the law enforcement point of view in terms of what their findings have been and what the numbers probably could also be. So, DCP Frank Umba, we keep hearing about baby factories. On the face of it, it would appear to be a boom now in the number of such factories. What's happening with regard to baby factories, and what is a baby factory, by the way?
If you look at it from strict legal concept, strict legal definition, you may never find anything like baby factory in our law books. The term baby factory is actually a media construct, but we've accepted it as a means for explaining or describing a different variants of crime that are currently taking place, and they are all interlinked. In a very narrow definition, I will look at it as I will localize it like a place where young women of childbearing ages are usually forcefully brought together or lured, or sometimes they willfully, out of ignorance, come together and then under the supervision of a well-organized syndicate begin to deliver babies that are usually snatched and eventually or bought over and then sold in the dark market, clearly not in the open market. These persons come in different ways. There are people who are lured in there because a young girl, a teenager, has just taken in. She approaches a doctor sometimes for an abortion, and the doctor who is already, or a nurse or a midwife, who already, or any other person who already has got link with a baby factory, now say, oh, why do you want to abort? Why don't you go to XYZ place? You'll be taken care of. Nobody will know. Your village people will not know. You will deliver, and then instead of killing this baby, and it's usually quite convincing. I've had interaction with some of these young women. It's usually quite convincing at that point in time. They are given the options of a lesser evil. Rather than killing the child, you deliver the child as somebody that deserves the child and that will take care of the child, takes over the child. And then you get some money in return to just take care of yourself. So the girl goes in there, and it becomes a long, complicated story. Sometimes it delivers. After that, sometimes she delivers. After that, she either held back forcefully against her will, or she's again reconvinced or to continue in that trade. There are some women who, out of desperation for child or legitimate desire to have a child, they go to prayer houses or they go to some nursing homes, and then two things happen. They convince them to pretend that they are pregnant, and after 9 months, they know. In this case, they play along. After 9 months, they go to a baby factory and hand over a baby to them. There are those who are actually deceived. They give them some concussions they take, and their tummy begin to swell. And they say, never ever go to never ever carry out a scan. They are deceived and they believe it is real. And then after 9 months, they have someone they have already programmed to deliver a baby. And then the lady is forced to go through a sham labor, a phantom labor, a labor that is entirely a hoax, pseudo. And then she wakes up to find a baby by her side. If she ever conducts a DNA, she will discover that that baby is not hers. But if you give it a very wide definition, it will include so many other things, including outright child stealing. We've seen people in the southeast, we've had cases in Abia, in Imo, in Enugu, where people go outrightly to hunt for these kids. So if you just deliver the baby and are in poor neighborhood, you could see some people coming in the dead of the night to snatch the baby. Snatch a baby that is just a few days old, a few weeks old, or a few months old, and take that baby to a baby factory where the baby is eventually sold. So it comes in different variation. So if you can stretch the definition, you can narrow the definition, but the bottom line is it involves child stealing, it involves illegal adoption, it involves illegal surrogacy, it involves all kind of trafficking in infants, in children. All kind is a complex web of criminal enterprise.
All right, DCP Frank Mba, thank you very much. Yeah, got it. From the
we've had issue of trafficking. We had.
Thank you very much. I think Frank has actually captured the phenomenon that is before us. But let me just go a little back into the evolution of this issue. When the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs issued the first and second country report on the Convention on the Rights of the Child, it identified this phenomenon as baby harvesting. Because at that time, it was like, okay, a wayward girl gets pregnant, does not want to keep the baby, and somebody offers to help. They take her out of her environment, keep her somewhere, delivers, they give her some money and send her back, so maybe back to school with nobody being wiser. She may just say, I traveled, and so on. At that time, it was maybe people wanting to get babies for illegal adoption and all that. But now it has evolved, just like he described, to a kind of industry. Because now you have reports of some orphanages actually employing young studs to impregnate women on a series, in a serial way. There was a case in Imo State some years back about a young boy that had impregnated about 23 different girls. So it's like a production line. That's why it's actually being called the factory. And like he said, it has a lot of implications. We may just look at it like illegal adoption. And of course, the states are very fierce about protecting their rights over the issues of adoption and fostering and all that, which is actually a state law. But now you find that most times these state laws are breached at will, because under the state adoption laws, you cannot take a child who is adopted in the state across state boundaries, except under special circumstances. And secondly, there is a procedure for adoption that ensures that there is a bonding between the new parents and the baby, which sometimes takes about 3 to 6 months or more. But now you find people that come up with a 7-day-old baby and say they went to adopt. That is illegal. And unfortunately, some state functionaries actually are complicit in this. Now you also have the adoption or taking away of Nigerian children abroad. And they say it's adoption and signed by a state commissioner or state judge. But state laws cannot operate beyond the national boundaries. So how do you protect such people? So this is something that has worried NAPTIP over time. And during the last year's Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, this issue of orphanage trafficking was highlighted. And it includes this phenomenon because there's a lot of abuse of the orphanage system, the adoption system, and all that. So what we are seeing is actually, like he said, well organized. It's no longer something people do casually, and people who are looking for babies know where to go because they know who are those who are in that business. But our greatest worry is the phenomenon of the organ harvesting and the trafficking of in human tissues, which is also blooming all over the world. Some months back, some people were found in Uganda with coolers of human parts, and they said they were Chinese that were coming in to carry out they were coming in private jets and going away with human parts and all that. And last week, it was also confirmed that this is also happening in Nigeria. But of course, they have medical certificates to show that they are in the clear. But we're going to look into that, and we, of course, are going to work with the police to look into this. But it's something that is beyond just adoption with people looking for babies. It's actually beyond that. We believe that it's a criminal enterprise that is behind this, and we are desirous to go deeper to look at what is behind all this.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Moka. We'll get back to you in the course of the discussion. Let's get to Owerri. Joining us via Skype is Adora Onyechere, Senior Special Assistant to the Governor of Imo State. That's for information and advocacy. What do we know about what's happening in that particular area? Because your state has been tipped as one of the areas where this is thriving.
I think we take a history back, looking at issues dealing with baby factory. I think I would like to term the word child harvesting, under which we find locations where these incidents happen as baby farms or baby factories, as Frank explained earlier on. And I think that going way back into the sequencing of this issue, I also understand that 10 years ago, UNESCO did a report on this issue, especially looking at its angle from human trafficking. And the explanation was that this was the third worst crime in Nigeria outside, financial fraud and drug trafficking, and which was a red flag. And going down to looking at issues concerning the state, Imo State, yes, in times have also been flagged as a place and an area where these issues have also come very, very difficult. So I think going down into the history and coming down to this area, sometime around the time of May, early May this year, some syndicates were found, arrested. And I think the worrying trend, what we see as supposedly the issue surrounding this conversation is the fact that, one, we're looking at legislation. How do we look at the domestication of state laws to accommodate these crimes as punishable? And secondly, how do we also look at the social welfare system across the states, for instance, in our state? And I think these are one of the issues that have been primarily discussed. We just had the International Day for the Girl Child, which just was a conversation that was brought up. And one of the key angles to look at this is at actually looking at safe havens and talking to the security, and also involving institutions such as religious institutions and the hospital. And if we understand how these girls are desperate, then you also understand that these people who offer them these excuses for safe haven are people who also operate what we call ad hoc orphanage homes, or homes where these girls are learning, and pretentiously they are asked to be accommodated and be given skills in return, which of course never ends up happening. So we're looking at issues regarding fostering adoption. We're also looking at issues surrounding establishment of orphanages within the state laws, how these are domesticated, who has access, who does not have access. The recent number of girls that were found in Lagos, I think about 27 of them who were found loitering around Isolo, were escaped. They escaped from a baby factory. And what I told them was that they were going to take care of them and give them skills and return, and when their babies are born, help them to find homes where they can be accommodated. And these girls were adopted from states like Rivers State, Imo State, Abia State, amongst others. So now the question is, who are the syndicates? Because it looks like a money-making business from some syndicates within the states. How do we begin to work with agencies such as NAPTIP? And this is what we have been looking at in Imo State. And for instance, we also understand that looking at the enabling environment, again, looking at skills, vocational and technical education has become key, because you find out some of those girls are either out of job, and some of them are voluntary and willing, abductees who give up their children at a paltry sum of even 35,000 naira. So you're wondering, at what desperation does a child, or does a girl child feel so defenseless in order to be convinced enough to sell a child, or to even be abducted or put in a place where she's incubated for a period of time? And so that is why the government is taking steps in looking at also making sure that vocational and technical education are one of the primary sources of engagement of the youth and young people, especially young girls. So we're looking at also making sure that there are systems within the state government that also offer support in terms of advocacy and orientation at the state level. Through the Imo State House of Assembly, legislations are being looked at. Implementation of the VAP Act, which is the Violence Against Persons, is also one of the key conversations. So it is a consistent conversation, but the most important thing is how we're looking at evolving around these issues and creating an enabling environment to stop them, at least in the interim, and accommodate the conversations in terms of advocacy. Ignorance is the biggest risk that we have also understood, because a lot of these girls do not know the difference, in terms of also understanding what they are taking and the ability to speak out. And the people or the persons or any hospital found asking a girl child to be taken, it should also be found wanting. What is the licensing for that hospital? So I think it's a whole collective effort, and the institutions at the national level should cooperate more with the state institutions to look at issues of the syndicates and those again also involved in the environs.
All right, Adara, thank you very much there. You've proffered a number of suggestions with regard to dealing with baby factory syndrome. But let us back up a bit. Tell us, how does the baby factory problem present in Imo State? And what has the state government or other institutions found to be the factors that drive this production line?
Now, the issue of baby factory in Imo State has been one of the issues that have been also spread within the human trafficking. If you look at the course of NAPTIC from about 2 to 3 years down the line to about now, it's been a recurrent decimal. However, the state government has looked at issues surrounding lack of enabling environment for these young persons. And one of the key factors that have been identified is adaptation of skills, and also looking at revitalizing environments where these girls can adapt to the new emerging economic systems, like ICT. Recently, the state government empowered and trained over 250 young girls in coding and software application, where these girls have also been adapted and adopted into systems and the working environment to be able to measure up with the new scope of digitization in the workforce. And this is key. And again, we're also looking at the flag off of the recent flag off of technical and vocational institutions and colleges in Imo State, which look at the TVET system, which is a technical vocational education, training system. And His Excellency set up a task force team to look at this issue as one of the key issues in the state because of the population of the number of youths we have in Imo State. And in looking at institutional, harmonization of efforts, the state government is cooperating and collaborating with the state police, also looking at institutions so that the religious circle to be able to create platforms of advocacy and orientation, and schools as well. And I believe that the biggest point of contact with these young girls, and some of them also, are the schools, and through the advocacy system orientation and the orientation of the girls, issues of this type can come to the fore. I believe that also, in terms of looking at this issue, we are looking at the guidance and counseling model, which...
Well, thank you very much, Dara. We'll return to the course of the conversation. Let's go now to our Just Network studios, where we earlier introduced Abdulrafiu Adeniji, who is president of the Association of Nurses and Midwives. You see him there on the right side of your screen. Abdulrafiu, well, there is a general perception that these baby factories, as part of the syndicate, you have members of your association or persons who are otherwise affiliated to your association, that the syndicates get assistance from nurses and midwives to attend to the pregnant women and to also assist them in delivery. What is it that your association has ascertained in the meantime?
Thank you so much. The issue of child harvesting, baby industry, or any name being called that is inhuman, criminal, and spiritually abominable is a case that have to involve the attention of everybody. Just like we have mentioned, part of the outlet for child harvesting includes hospitals, clinic, maternity homes, foster and orphanage, and even certain spiritual centers. And in the center of this activity is childbearing activity, which nurses and midwives are involved. Unfortunately, this is a country that have probably not take into consideration the fact that human being is very, very sacred, and the gift of a baby is only from God. And if you take it like this, a nurse or a midwife, the doctor, the merchant that is in child harvesting, we have to think twice before you indulge in it. First and foremost, nursing is a noble profession with ethics, and this kind of thing is abominable to the ethics of nursing profession. When a baby is being conceived, a nurse is to protect not only the life of the mother, but even the child in utero. The responsibility of a nurse is to protect these persons that are involved in child rearing. And any nurse or midwife now to do contrary and go out of his or her way to participate in child selling, harvesting, or trafficking is against the law. And the Professional Association of Nurses and Midwives in this country is totally against it. We have our own mechanism, if reported, to deal with such situation. And the penalty for such goes even beyond the issue of retrieval of license or suspending such person. The association will thereafter hand over such person to the law enforcement agent. In essence, this is against every law that guide nursing and midwifery practice in this country. And the association is against the practice of child harvesting. And in any event of any member caught in this act, the association will join the state in prosecuting such a person. Part of our activities is to do from time to time continuing education, visiting, and at every state of the federation, there is what we call Nursing and Midwifery Committee, which is being headed by the Director of Nursing Services of that state. Any form of professional misconduct that does not even include this crime will be reported. And when it is reported, a panel is set up to investigate. And when such a person is found guilty, the professional discipline will be carried out. And then at the exit of this, such a person will be handed over to the law enforcement agent.
Well, Abdul, thank you very much. You've indicated what you have on your books in terms of regulations. The reports that we are getting, confirmed already by the Force Public Relations Officer as well as the director here from NAPTIP, is that we are having a boom in baby factories, which means that some of your members who are nurses and midwives are involved in this. They continue to be involved. Has there been any incidents of apprehension of these members and therefore disciplinary measures taken against them as you have outlined in your books?
Most of the cases that have been reported in the pages of newspaper have already gotten to the law enforcement agent. Just like we have said about the boom in the business, we have to look at the environment. What are the possible contributory factors that is making this baby industry to boom? Like I said, first and foremost, the public have to be educated, to be informed that in case of any professional misconduct, we have to report. If we report, and the association is aware of this, the association will go to any extent to ensure that we cooperate with the law of the state and ensure that any person who is a member of our group, and just like we have said, or some people that bear the name of a nurse in the name of being a quack, or somebody who is acting like a nurse, such a person apprehended will be dealt with not only in the state that person is have committed that offense, but throughout the federation. I'm trying to put across to the public that in any event of any occurrence of any nurse or midwife participating in this kind of crime, if such is reported, the association will take it up and then will do whatever it is necessary at the professional level. And it can lead to even the licensing such a person from the association, from the professional practice, and then such a person being handed over to the law enforcement agent. It is against the law and every ethics of the profession. And anybody that does that at the risk of his or her own person and professional certificate.
All right, thank you very much, Abdurafiu Adeniji. I will come back to you in the course of the discussion. Now, joining us now in the studio, I would like to welcome Safia Omar. She is Acting Secretary, the FCT Social Development Secretariat. Welcome to the program, madam.
Good morning.
Okay, straight away, yes, I'm sure you had the benefit of listening on the other guests who have talked about this aspect of child harvesting, baby factory, whatever the name, but there is a boom in this area. And of course, this is an incursion into social welfare, definitely. What do we know from your own end?
Well, what we know from our own end is that we actually want to believe that there is a boom because of the spring up of illegal orphanages without source of getting the children. We always go around to find out how they get these children. And we want to believe now that there is these factories somewhere hidden, which probably the law enforcement agency is here to trace within Abuja. I'm talking about Abuja. And the community has a lot to do with that, because if there are such hidden factories within communities, there is always a district head, there is always a chief in all the communities, and we are expecting that they should do their civic responsibilities by informing the law enforcement if they should see anything funny coming up, maybe a house concealed with girls, and thereafter you see babies coming out of that. A district head is supposed to know what is happening within his environment.
But from reports reaching you, or reaching the Social Development Secretariat, what are the trends that have been reported to you about such girls or such women that have been taken into captivity? And you talked about some illegal operations of orphanages and other forms of foundation. What report are you getting?
Of late, people have decided to open up, like the Emir of Jua called us. We went to Jua and found a place like that and seal it up and collect the children. You see, there is a missing link in the enabling environment. The government is supposed to, due to economic issues that facing parents, see, these girls will be stressed off, probably in trying to take care of their parents or their personal needs, and as such will go into this without the parents knowing. And if there is an enabling environment, like for example in developed worlds, there's what we call the transit camp or the council houses or something like that. Girls that happens to go the wrong way will definitely go to the council house, will go to the authority, like in the case of FCT, will come to Social Development Secretariat and will have a SUCO where you will give them a council house, maybe for a period, and then empower them. They will be ready to take care of themselves and the baby. But such enabling environment has not yet been created. And the knowledge of the Social Development Secretariat existence is very limited. People find it very difficult to, they don't even know that there is such an organizations that you can come to report issues like this. Most times, if they are stressed, they go to the same orphanages that buy the children. And the police are doing very well, quite all right, because if they see such things, they pick them up and then either take it to NAPTIP or send it to the Social Development Secretariat. In the past, some 1 year ago, the police also will take it to orphanages that they don't know whether they are legal and illegal. But with the advocacy that is going in the city, the police have now partnered with us 247 because we have paid a visit to the Commissioner of Police, and then we are working with the NAPTIP. The NAPTIP is always sending. But the truth of the matter is that there is an economic stress within the society. And the children need to be, the girl child need to be educated. She need to be informed what to do if she is under such stress, because she need to either a kind of confined on maybe a neighbor. So the community also have a duty to knowing what a neighbor's child is doing, because without that, she will not know when she needs an assistance. Most times they conceal this, like some cases we have, the girls will even be pregnant, deliver the baby without the mother knowing, only to either wrap it or take it to an orphanage to collect 30,000. And a friend will also advise another friend that I am able to sell my own for 30,000, and she will also go into that, maybe for material, because there are so many factors that leads girl child into all this, either material or either maybe she needs assist her parents. So these are the issues. So parents should be able to know what their children are doing, and the right information should be disseminated, working with schools, working with the emirs or the district heads, and the community in general. We used to have a community hall. I don't know whether community meetings no longer hold. In the past,
I'm sure they do. Okay,
you should know. You are in charge of social development. You
Yeah.
say you don't know. I'm just wondering. But I just, they raised a number of points, but I just want to clarify one issue. You said the factory was bombed somewhere following the information from the emir, maybe Jua. What happened? Were the police involved in this, or was NAPTIP also involved in this? What did you find in that factory?
Yeah, we find quite a number of children, about 20 children.
Ages?
Ages between the age of 1 up to about 5, 6. And the lady running the place said it was a calling from God that she collects these children from whoever comes to her to give her the children. And we involved the police in Jua. It ended up in the headquarters, and at the end of the day, she claimed to have known the parents of.
Thank you very much. Well, DCP Frank, I'm sure you want to react to that, particularly on the where we have to now make a release of such, even when we know that such could be illegal, or what brings about one being supported and the other one being released. And take along this question too. She raised the issue about, of course, the advocates for the girl child, but then the people impregnating these people are not spirits. They're actually people who are knowledgeable about what such crime is all about. What's to be done in that direction?
I may not be able to react to what she said because I don't.
The fact that it came to headquarters.
Yes, I don't have the facts.
Okay.
It could be certainly not the force headquarters, probably the command headquarters. So I wouldn't be able to react to that. But you try to describe this again, the complex nature, the fact that there are in the web of the conspiracy, in the web of the enterprise, there are lots of people that play different roles. Is a chain. There are chain of command and chain of activities. The studs, or the men whose job are to just go on impregnating the girls, the one who owns the factory. Sometimes they have scouts who actually go out there to look out for girls, vulnerable girls in need of those kind of situation, and then they kind of try to convince them. Sometimes it's not just easy, and then there are different players. But when we clamp down on them, each time any of those factories are busted, we go after each of these layers and arrest, because we know these rules. So once we bust a baby factory, we begin to eliminate. I mean, we draw up our list and we go after them individually. What you will understand is, and at the end of the day, when we prosecute all of them, except the ones we could not lay our hands at that point in time. There's something, I've had the privilege of working at the State CID, Lagos, and then working at the State CID Umuahia. And actually when I worked at State CID Umuahia, it was then that my eyes really opened to the very complex nature of this enterprise. They sometimes behave like drug peddlers. This person don't even know this person. They are so organized because they do it in such a way that if this person is arrested, sometimes he or she finds it difficult to even take the police, even when he or she sincerely and genuinely wants the police to get to the next person, but he or she might not be able. And that's why when a baby is taken, sometimes they take it through different chains in such a way that the end buyer, the end purchaser, might not even be able to locate where the baby come from. There are other instances where they outrightly eliminate the mother of the child. And I give you a clear example. There was a case we handled at State CID Umuahia where, how did we get to know about it? This young lady is from Ebonyi State. They got her with a pregnancy, brought her somewhere in Abia State. While she was there, she delivered the baby. They took the baby from Abia all the way to Nnewi. They sold the baby. They got back. They gave her about 100,000 or thereabout. Then they kept her in that same house. They got a stud and linked them together, and they started playing. The next few days, they say they suspected that this girl may come back later to ask for this child. That from their analysis, from their reading of the girl. Because they have instances where in the past, after they have sold the child, the mother of the child, 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, feel like, no, I shouldn't have done this. And then what did they do? They told the young girl that she needs to be on certain treatments because of her lactation processes. They need to help her. And then they gave her some medication and they said, oh, tomorrow you need to take an injection. And then by tomorrow they gave her an injection and that was it. It was a poison and she died. This was done clearly to have a total closure and protect
the syndicate,
the syndicate and the entire process. As soon as the young lady died, they employed 2 young men to come and dig what was clearly a burial place. But the 2 young men they employed, they told them that they were coming to, we have problem with our sockaway, please, we need a new sockaway. So in the glare of the public, everybody believed that they were actually trying to do a sockaway. And they dug the pit and left. And nobody, they paid them off. Those other people were also innocent people. We got them as well, but we used them as prosecution witnesses. Something now happened that day. A child was missing in the community. And then the use of the community, and that again tells you the fact that sometimes it is hard, it is difficult for you to commit crimes in the society, in a community, without people knowing. But there is this conspiracy of silence. So because one of their own kids was now missing, they said, the youth came together and said, the biggest suspect in this community is XYZ. We must go and search the house. They came protesting with green leaves and all, surrounded the house and carried out an instant search on the house. Rather than finding the child that was missing, they found a dead body. And that sparked off even a bigger form of riot, violent demonstration this time around. They attempted to burn down the house. They beat the couple to pulp. The police eventually came and rescued them. And we went into this investigation. And then we discovered that, look, there are some of the factories or some of the persons into these crimes that when they actually get the baby from the woman, they find a way to eliminate the woman. So this crime has got different components: homicide, rituals, and organ harvest.
Trafficking. But then we need to take a look. For us to be able to deal with this holistically, we need to ask ourselves hard questions. What are the factors that are actually driving this kind of crime? Yeah, all right. DCP Franco, thank you very much for the points that you have raised. When we return from this short break, we'll get to also hear from NAPT. All right, well, let's continue in the meantime. Godwin Moga, tell us something. You know, what we're talking about, we know that, this it's a secret business, as it were, even though it is booming. But is it necessarily the case that we're having perhaps the absence of insufficient intelligence for the law enforcement agencies, including your outfit, which is NAPTIP, to work with? Because as Frank Mbaba was saying, yes, these houses are not necessarily isolated. Neighbors just might know that, those people, those bad people, they are started again. But nobody comes out to squeal on them. But for NAPTIP, what is the major challenge you have in breaking into these syndicates and getting them apprehended?
Thank you. I think there are certain crimes that are hidden in plain sight. You people just pass without realizing that something awful is going on. And there are certain constraints. Like I said earlier, the issues of orphanages, adoption and such are state laws. And usually states are very fierce in protecting their mandate, which is as it should be. But when crimes are committed, it goes beyond what the state can deal with. And it's becoming such a national issue that it is time to have a cohesive national response that involves law enforcement, the social welfare, and other key players to really come up with the proper legislative or legal frameworks and also policy frameworks for dealing with this phenomenon. Because some things that evolve, like if people came up with, somebody came home with a baby, people go celebrate, even when they know that this person was never pregnant. Oh, he went to adopt. Nobody asks or interrogates the issue, how did you adopt a 7-day-old baby? There is no state law, under any state law, that you can adopt within 7 days. There is supposed to be a period of bonding, there's supposed to be a lot of investigation to look at the stability of this couple, and all, but people just act in breach. And unfortunately, social workers, nurses, and even other government officials are complicit. But all this while, because it's a state law, very little could be done. But NAPTIP has always said, when babies or adoption, or when children, Nigerians, or whatever description, are taken across state boundaries or taken across national boundaries, state laws cannot operate. There has to be a national response. But what worries us most is the issue of organ harvesting and this stem cell harvest of these stem cells is such. It's a booming business. Indeed, there was a finding that the illegal harvest of organs and cells and all that, it's about $50 billion every year. It's illegal. The medical science is aware of it. And it's something that, when people just see a medical certificate, they say, well, it's all legal and all that. But I think that we should open the veil and see what is really going on, because we suspect that so much horror.
Are you suggesting, I was wondering, are you suggesting that NAPTIP, for instance, is hamstrung in reining in human traffickers, even if those traffickers have now sought refuge at orphanage or some other illegal baby factory?
No, by no means. When, if there are reports, of course, we'll respond immediately. But like I said, you cannot keep knocking at every door to see what is going on there. That's what I'm talking about, crimes hidden in plain sight. Even the police could pass by every day without knowing that something is happening. But that's why you need people in the community to say something is happening here. And it is the response of law enforcement that says whether we have the will or not. But we do have the will. But the question is, it is so pervasive that the legal framework for dealing with this needs to be strengthened and re-examined. The policy structures and all that needs to be strengthened, because before now, like I said, it's like, okay, this state deal with it, but it's now a national phenomenon. And I think that
still staying with you before we'll take her to it. Madam Sefi here raised issue about aspect of economic implication that is pushing these ladies or whoever it is that is involved. I don't also raise the same question. Where is NAPTIP looking at in terms of this? Because even at the larger adult trafficking, there are instances you get around to actually talk or advocate for so many things that is pushing this people to actually, as for those who have been trafficked outside the country anyway. So what are you looking at? What trend have you discovered from those, at least, reports you waded into?
You see, it's very easy to plead poverty. Poverty can be real or actual or relative. Sometimes a poverty of your own idea or poverty of values. So for us, poverty is a cause, but not a reason for any deviant behavior. People react to poverty in different ways. Somebody is poor, I work harder. Let me look for a way. Nigeria is full of opportunities. But unfortunately, we have a generation that thinks that there is nothing good in Nigeria. But foreigners are coming here and mining money and really making money. So there's a lot of problem with our orientation, especially the orientation of our younger generation. Somebody is a graduate, you don't think that you have been trained to solve societal problems. You think you have been trained to just come and enjoy. Who is going to produce this pie? Everybody wants
the baby factory syndrome, that what appears to be playing out is that a good many of the social welfare departments at the state level are dormant. And that if they were up and running, it would be a lot easier for them to be inspecting the locations where the factories can most commonly be found. So-called, it could be a real or bogus orphanage, it can be a maternity home, it could be a clinic, it could be a midwife, who is operating on the periphery. So what is it that you have found out, and that's to say as a government, and in addition to the raft of measures that you have adopted, how are you doing this to re-energize your social welfare department?
Thank you for that question. And I think it's very keen at this moment to also state that looking at the issue of certification of orphanages and even homes, this is one of the key angles that the Ministry of Gender and Vulnerable Groups is looking at, in terms of certification of those orphanages and also the registration of some of these orphanages. I remember that, when we came into this administration, one of the key angle and conversation for His Excellency Right Honorable Mr. was to look at issues of the numbers of illegal, orphanages through the ministry. As of 2013 to 14, there were about 36 to 35 registered orphanage homes. And what is key to be noted here is that there is the registering of some of the homes who do not have, who have not followed the due process in registration of homes, and also looking at investigation of personnel and, of course, the administrative staff within those homes have not been found going through the right angle of course, adaptation in terms of child care and also looking at issues of profiling. We need to know whether these persons in the homes are sex offenders or these persons are who they say they are. The profiling will go through that process. And then again, a decertification of some of the homes that have not gone through that normal process would also be asked to go through that process. So we are rejigging, and I think it's a conversation amongst us that the most important chain for these syndicates is the orphanage homes and some of the illegal homes that are thriving. And again, looking at the essence of the employability of some of those members within the homes who are taking care of the children. Because from the investigations we have seen, some of them are even perhaps drivers to some of the madams in the orphanage homes, cleaners as far as that. And that is quite, powerful. But going forward, I remember that in 2016, I think September 2nd to be precise, the bill to look at the law on of course, trafficking persons and the prohibition law passed second reading. It was sponsored by Honorable Anita Nbagero, who said that there should be a 10-year jail term for these persons who were found operating illegal baby factories or even found, in areas of organ harvesting. And also went down to say that, there should be punitive measures for a 1 million naira fine for some of the homes that have been found to be illegally registered, and a 2 million naira, a 2-year jail term for those people who are handlers within the homes that are non-profiled. So we want to see the National Assembly step up on this law. I mean, it's past second reading. Where are we with this law right now? And then also look at the cases of enforceability. The security should also measure up in terms of their relationship and harmonizing their efforts with state institutions and including NAPTIP as well, who has a lot of work on his hands and is doing everything in his cap. But most importantly, at the state level, what we are doing at the moment and critically assessing the situation analysis that have been given to us in terms of the licensing and the registration of the homes at the state level, which, like I have said, is looking at the certification of those homes and also looking at the registration of those that have been found culpable.
All right, thank you very much, Adara, for your response. We will have a torrent of tweets that have come in from our viewers. Blessing. Let's go quickly through those through the tweets, and then we're getting pressed for time now. Amabola Babs has this tweet. Now, it's talking about baby factories. It's absurd, grotesque, and morally reprehensible. Many girls' dreams have been cut short because of these acts. Relevant authorities should please save our girl child by combing all nooks and crannies of the country, and perpetrators should be severely punished.
Festus Akimboyewa tweets, those running baby farms in our country, including the male racketeers who impregnate the women and midwives who ensure safe delivery in these factories, must face the full wrath of the law to discourage the evil business from becoming a burgeoning industry.
Sani Michael Omakoji, desperation, get-rich-quick syndrome, loss of moral values, and the quest for economic power are the reasons we now have a proliferation of baby factories. To curb this, we need more of investigative journalism and synergy between the local vigilantes and the police.
From Titus Monday, knock his district, I just developed goose pimples and I'm wondering and pondering why humans are so demented to carry out such acts. People perpetrate such and support such acts as societal misfits and should be jailed for life.
Mike Ayakwo. Now, although religions are in support of child adoption by childless couples. They never support proliferation of baby factories for making money purposes. Now, this trend in the country is bad and highly condemnable. Relevant government agencies should identify those who are behind this and make them face the music.
Dele Jack Solomon tweets, there is a need for an increased national and educational campaigns at the community level organized by the government and the NGOs are urgently needed in Nigeria to overcome the baby factory phenomenon.
Abdul tweets, now the failure of our intelligence is one of several reasons contributing to this crime. The community must report any suspicious home that is used for a baby factory. Religious leaders must also continue to preach to their followers the repercussions of this.
Abbas Abubakar tweets, it's very sad and pathetic for having such in our country. These are some of the serious issues our legislatures are supposed to legislate on and punish anyone involved in. It's a very serious disaster and inhuman, which is capable of destroying a nation. May God expose them.
Now, this Twitter handle is Dream Big. I think the factors that cause this menace are infertility, ritual purposes, child trafficking, and the urge to make quick money. Government should impose life sentence on any criminal caught in the act.
Chris Simeon tweets, some of those women who are seen as babies producing machines in the baby factories are humiliated and raped. Therefore, their offsprings are the products of rape.
Now, Akeju Olagbaju, the menace is a direct effect of social failure and poverty. But our guests have said, look, for how long can you play poverty as a fact? But Akeju Olagbaju writes for that, we can look beyond this and introduce surrogacy so some of the ladies can serve legally as surrogate mothers.
I found this last tweet from Haruna. It says, this act is totally prohibited by any culture, religion, and even the constitution of the country. Perpetrators of the crime should be dealt with severely. Okay, those are the tweets we've received. Time now for a break. When we return, we'll be on the home stretch to having closing the thoughts on this issue today.
For more than 10 years, NTA Educational Television has continued to champion the discovery of young scientists and artists across the country. The 2019 National Children's Expo promises to bring to light the best of innovations and creativity in the science and arts categories. Theme: promoting unity and innovations in youths as agents of change through science and arts. Venue: NTA Headquarters Arena, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. Date: Sunday, October 20th to Thursday, October 24th, 2019. For more information, please call the following numbers. This event is proudly supported by NTA ETV, promoting learning.
Oh boy, climb this thing now. No be only to connect lights. Come you and yourself now. Now wow. Oh boy, come down now. Oga Kasali electrician who will look for this. Oh, Oga Kasali, come help us fix this wire now.
Sorry, I no longer carry out illegal connection. It puts the lives of people at risk and can cause fire outbreak and disrupt power supply. I will never be part of anything that has to do with this any longer because change begins with me.
Oh boy, letting him talk makes sense. Oh boy, we could carry this ladder from
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, you're welcome back. And let's go over to Jos, where the president of the Association of Nurses and Midwives is still with us, Abdul Rafiu Adeniji. Abdul Rafiu, let's get your closing thoughts. I mean, you can see the level of disgust expressed by our respondents in terms of the tweets that they sent in, and indeed for anyone who is watching this program at this time and hearing the details of what normally will go on. It is clear that the women who give birth in the baby factories are assisted. And it is also clear that these are not businesses that are done in the open. In other words, these are not legal transactions. Yes, a few quacks might be involved, but it appears that there are some persons who probably see this as moonlighting. In other words, just do this as a side business, and these are your members, nurses and midwives. Is this a wake-up call for you to say, look, we have to get out of this?
Thank you. On the issue of involvement of nurses and midwives, I want us to take into consideration about 2 points. Number one is that most often our members are even victims of invading the hospitals for people who need these babies, for rituals, or those who want to actually sell. When they get to the hospital, they head to the maternity center. And because of this, we know that our members are at risk. So the association cannot just fold their arms and say they are not involved or not going to contribute. Another point is the fact that we have occurrences of, say, nurses and midwives sold baby. The one that happened in Cross River State the other time, we immediately swung into action. And on getting there, we saw that the people they are calling nurses and midwives are not actually nurses and midwives. So the stake is that both the Professional Association of Nurses and Midwives, the law enforcement agents, all these government apparatus should collaborate and work together. Immediately there is any claim of anybody who is a nurse, we need to verify. Because when you ask some of these people, they are not actually registered nurses. But for those who are registered nurses, this is a wake-up call for everybody, the community leaders, the spiritual leaders, the people in law enforcement agents, people who are in orphanages, or those who organize the orphanages. We need to work together to ensure that whoever is involved will deal with such a person like a criminal. Because we have found out that whoever is doing this is not doing it based on what such a person is licensed to do. He's doing it as a result of his or her own volition. And the association is against this, and is going to collaborate. The association is going to collaborate with any agency of government to ensure that whoever is caught, or even to prevent the occurrence, and whoever is caught, if involved, should be dealt with according to the law of the land.
President, National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives, Abdulrafiu Adeniji. Thank you very much for joining us from our Just Network Center. Thank you for your insight on the program.
Thank you.
Let's quickly get the closing thoughts from Daura Onyechere. Well, being a presenter yourself, I hope you will be able to do that in just 30-40 seconds. There are multi-pronged approaches that every one of you have itemized. What should be the word for those in particularly your state, as well as some of these areas that this is thriving?
I think first of all, I'd say humanity is at stake if we do not look at the rising case of baby factories across the world, and especially now we're looking at it in Nigeria. One of the key things I would say is advocacy and reorientation. It's just against the battle of the mind before our environment. We need to adopt measures to be able to have conversations with our children in our schools, and also like the government is doing in Imo State, looking at revitalizing the vocational and technical skills environment by looking at flagging off and, of course, instituting measures of youth education within the environment. And yes, the citizens should take advantage of that as well. Like one of the guests said there, get rich quick syndrome. I think right now we're looking at a generation of youth who do not look at the essence of hard work. And so we need to take back that and get them to understand that there is a process that contains that aspect of our mindset that needs us to understand that whatever we have to get in life needs to be sustainable, and to sustain it, we need to work for it. And that's my creation work.
Special Assistant on Information and Advocacy to the Governor of Imo State, Daura Onyechere. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Okay, quickly. Yeah,
I just want to get it let's get the closing thoughts of Godwin Moka of NAPTIP. In looking at the ramifications of this illegal business, have we fully grasped the extent of what is probably playing out? You talked about adoption and the issues surrounding adoption, the legal issues and surrogacy, but it couldn't just be the fact that because a childless couple is in search of a baby, that you're having these baby factories. Could something much more sinister be going on. I recall, there was a report some 14, 15 years ago about a baby factory that was busted in the Lagos area, that's off Agor Palace Way, by the then Commissioner of Youth and Social Development, I think, Bamidele. So is there something more sinister than just saying that organ harvesting and so on and so forth, that we have not focused on as a country?
Thank you very much. I think that the issue is deeper than just desire for babies. We believe that there's a lot of organ harvesting, stem cell, sale of harvesting of baby stem cells, especially for medical purposes, and it's being done illegally. Like I said earlier, it's a $50 billion business. It's illegal and it's worldwide, and it's a network that is global. Things we call ritual murder, because you see, we just put names on things and think that it's where there's nothing we can do about it. Cases of ritual murder, my Director General, Dimjilo Kadoli, has always said that she suspects that it's beyond just that she has never seen where they grind anybody's heart and it begins to yield money. There was something more. There was about 6 months ago, there was a case of a lady that was lured from Lagos to Ota, and she was murdered, and we're told that two different native doctors, one was taking the heart, one was taking the lungs, or that was taking kidneys. So what are they using them for? So we believe that there is a serious case of organ harvesting, trafficking in human tissues going on the ground. And we believe that with support the police and other key players, we are going to unravel this.
All right. Thank you very much, Godwin Moka. Safia Umar, very briefly, what we are saying may very well be, the failure of the social welfare departments to knock and get to the root of this matter. What should be done very quickly?
Well, what should be done is social issues are capital intensive, and in Abuja, with the influx of people, there is a need for funding and social corporate responsibilities, and then civic responsibilities from communities, and reporting cases on time.
Okay.
So I think this is the problem, and we need some kind of council houses, for especially Abuja is a melting pot where everybody comes. Some of these girls are forced by circumstances, and if you are able to give them some succor, like in skill acquisition, and give them some council houses to stay for maybe a time, right, it will do.
Okay. Discipline, Frank, ignorance is no excuse in law. So if people are pretending not to know that this is the situation, they are captured in the different departments. How do we attend to this from your end?
For me, really, beyond core law enforcement approaches, which we are adopting, working with NAPTIC and the rest of the law enforcement community, I think there's also need for us to embark on increased advocacy. We need to let the girl child know that it's not a crime for you to have out of wedlock pregnancy. We are not encouraging it, but we need to teach them how to avoid it. But if it occurs, we need to also destigmatize that. Cultural, social stigmatization that comes with teenage pregnancy must be de-emphasized. And we also need to help couples who are struggling to have children. By so doing, we might be able to cut down the demand going into these baby factories. If you cut off the demand, then the supply chain will also begin to die naturally.
All right. Deputy Commissioner of Police, Frank Uba, is also Force Public Relations Officer. Thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you.
Appreciation also to Godwin Moka, Director of Research and Program Development, NAPTIP. Thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you so much.
And Hajia Safia Umar, Acting Secretary, Federal Capital Territory Social Development Secretariat. Thank you for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria. Let's go over now to our sports desk.
Nigerian forward Victor Osimhen has been named